Hello, everybody. You're listening to Angel Nears, the podcast. Angel Nears is a Silicon Valley community for startup builders where experienced operators share their firsthand knowledge on how to build and scale startups. I'm your host, Oleg Kujakov. Our guest today is Haseeb Budhani, co-founder and CEO of Rayface Systems, a provider of enterprise-grade Kubernetes management for today's modern applications. Today, we're talking with Haseeb about his journey as a serial entrepreneur and his mission of helping DevOps deploy modern applications on Kubernetes with ease. But before we get into that, Haseeb, welcome to the show.
Oleg, nice to talk to you today. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, excited to hear from you and learn a little bit about your journey. So for myself and the listeners, why don't you just get us started by telling us a little bit about yourself and your journey so far?
Happy to. So we have been working on Rafe for, what is it now, a little over 3 years now. A number of my colleagues here at Rafe, them and I have worked together before. In fact, actually, the joke here is there's a few people on the team who have worked with me for 4 companies now. I don't know why they keep showing up. So with some indicator for sure. What's interesting about startups is, and at least this is my own perspective, every startup that I worked on as a CEO or even before, it's because either myself or somebody, right, some founder, they lived through some pain and they had to solve it. Like, I got to solve this, right? And that became this crazy idea that became a company, that became a product, that became essentially happy customers at the end of the day. At Rafe, we're solving a problem that has to do with DevOps, infrastructure, automation, etc. And in our previous startup, we lived through this as consumers of these technologies. So the previous startup was a security company, and their infrastructure was something that we would use to deploy our application. And the pain we lived through, in hindsight, was, I guess, dire enough that it compelled us to think about, why is this so hard? Why are there no good solutions for this? But companies existed at the time who certainly solved this problem, but in our opinion, maybe they could have been done better. And particularly when you come from that kind of experience, I think you end up building a better product, because you're sort of doing this. Of course, you're building products for your customers, but you're sort of building this for yourself. And when you do that, the level of passion is unmatched. Right? You're not doing this because, hey, I saw a gap, I'm going to make money. You're really trying to solve a problem. And to me, it may sound like a silly notion that you're solving a problem for yourself, but the thing is, you used to be that buyer, and you're solving a problem that you have clarity that if I solve this for myself, then there's hundreds of thousands of companies out there who are experiencing the same pain, and they will buy from you. And to me, that's like the best way to think about startups. That's what's worked for me till date. Hopefully, it works in the future also.
And I imagine this is kind of a modern problem. You weren't working at your previous startup too long ago, right? Like this problem isn't already solved, right? It's still ongoing, right?
Yeah, the thing about modern applications is, look, I think we've all been hearing about kind of digital transformation and kind of modern application modernization. I think we've been hearing this for 5, 6, 7 years now in some way, shape, or form. And people have been talking about this concept called containerization, where you write to your applications as microservices for a number of years now. High-end startups, Bay Area, New York kind of companies, I guess Miami these days, right? I mean, there's companies out there who've been thinking about, containerized applications, microservices for a long time, right? Or anybody who's started a company or started working on a new project in the last, 3 years, 4 years, this is what you do. But think about a traditional enterprise. Think about an insurance company that's been selling an app for a long time. They probably, quote unquote, wrote like a web app 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And now they have to modernize. Right now, potentially they're moving from a data center to a cloud, and this is a perfect opportunity to rethink their tech stack. For them, this is new. In fact, here's something that that we found now, and to me, this is a critical insight. If you go to a show like KubeCon, which is a big kind of Kubernetes event, it feels like, my God, everybody in the world is talking about Kubernetes. Yeah, but they're all early also. Right. So I think many of us kind of get caught up in the high end, really experts who are part of a small community like a KubeCon community, and you kind of feel like, wow, this market's already done, right? No, it's actually starting now. So over the last year, most enterprises have now started thinking, okay, well, I got to do something about my traditional applications. And in some respects, I think the pandemic probably also forced a lot of people to think about, well, what is the new way for me to interact with my customers? I got to think about better user experiences. I got to think about contactless payments, et cetera, et cetera. I got to modernize, right? So that's what's happening right now. And I think this market is early. Seems like we timed this company perfectly with a product that seems to make it super easy for customers to automate their infrastructure for modern applications. So I'm really looking forward to the next couple of years or so.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And we have a question later about timing, so I'm gonna bookmark that, save that. So I feel like to understand this conversation and set it up properly, we should talk about two things you mentioned, right? Kubernetes and eventually containerization. But let's start with Kubernetes, just for someone who has no idea what it is. What is it?
Fundamentally, Kubernetes is an orchestration engine. It's a way to help schedule a number of different services, applications, processes, etc., in one or more servers. So you have n number of machines, servers, virtual or physical. They all sort of come together into a pool of compute. And then some engine, in this case Kubernetes, determines, okay, this application needs this much compute, this application needs this much compute, and I'm going to make sure I allocate this much compute for you. I'm going to put this application on this node and this other application on that node, etc. I'm being reductive in many ways. Kubernetes does a lot more than that. But fundamentally, that's the goal. How do I abstract away the vagaries of scheduling and ongoing operations of applications in a cluster? That's what it is. It does a really, really, really good job of that. I think it's fundamentally a game-changing thing that we, of course, did not invent. We are consumers of this technology, but it is going to make our applications over the next 10 years simpler and better. Just hands down, this is the winner. It's awesome.
So you said it's sort of like about orchestrating all those things in concert. So I'm imagining kind of a maestro, uh, sort of waving his baton and making sure all the right things happen at the right times. Um, can you talk about containerization?
Sure. So why containerize at all? So before this concept of containers, most applications were getting packaged as this thing called a virtual machine, before which obviously we were running servers, bare metal. I mean, so for the longest time, we as an industry have been looking for a way to kind of reduce the footprint of a specific application without having to bring along the baggage of what's underneath the application. So here, what do I mean by that? So let's say an application needs a specific operating system and it needs, I don't know, some driver or whatever. So what we used to do was we would package something called a virtual machine that we could run on some server on top of something called a hypervisor. So there's a company called VMware. They made a massive business out of helping people take a single physical machine and running multiple virtual machines on it. Why? Because, well, the server, let's say, has 32 cores in it, but each of one of my applications, I don't know, maybe needs 2 or 3 or 4 cores. So instead of wasting the entire machine, wow, maybe I can run 7 or 8 of these. That saves money. That makes a lot of sense. It's been happening now for 15, whatever, 20 years. It's awesome. But then on top of that, now here's a challenge. When I package my application as a virtual machine, when I need to run it elsewhere, that virtual machine is now pretty big. It could be a multiple gigabytes or many, many gigabytes, depending on what's happening. But that makes it really cumbersome to move around. So how do I make it go faster? So some folks had the idea that, well, really the application is really that process that gets executed on the operating system, but then that process needs things around it. It needs an environment. So what if you could take that process and the environment around it and package it as a container? And now this container brings its environment with it, and effectively, so long as any other system in the world provides a place where a container can be run, it's just going to run. It becomes completely portable, and the infrastructure underneath becomes immutable. That's the promise of containers. Yeah, in all these definitions, I'm being quite reductive. I'm not trying to provide technical definitions, but trying to kind of express the value, right? Why do people do this in the first place? If I write an application and I package it as a container, the way it runs on my laptop and the way it runs on a machine in Amazon versus the way it runs in a data center, there's no difference. It's just going to work. That's beautiful, right? So that portability, that infrastructure immutability, that abstraction layer, basically, it makes life easy. Development becomes easier. My laptop now can be used to deploy and develop, but then the same application, I can be comfortable in knowing that application is going to work in production. But whereas before, when we were used to do testing, etc., our environments needed to sort of look the same as the environment that's going to be in production. That is pretty expensive. Doesn't need to happen anymore. Why? Containers. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful concept. But they need to be orchestrated, right? One application is going to be n number of containers. Maybe in some cases you run n number of containers per application. Somebody needs to manage all this stuff, right? How many am I going to run? What if one of them restarts? What if I cannot start it? That's where orchestration comes in, and that's what Kubernetes does for containers. So Kubernetes is effectively a container orchestration mechanism.
So I'm trying to understand the value a little bit more, because it sounds like, things are faster. You can run more machines. Maybe you can scale it up. I'm not sure, but it sounds like you're very invested in this, right? Obviously, why is this the future? What are some of the key factors that are driving people towards using Kubernetes or being a part of this space?
So a few concepts to think about. So one is why bother with containers? I think that's a function of portability moving faster. But then what is the impetus for moving to containers? I think maybe that's a more important question. It's microservices. So I'll give you the example of our own SaaS product. So every 6 weeks or so, we have a major upgrade to our SaaS platform where we change kind of fundamental infrastructure level stuff. But the user interface of our platform, it changes a few times a week. If this was one big application, we would go at the pace of the slowest component in our system, or maybe the most, critical component system, right? So maybe then if we had one big fat application, we could not upgrade any faster than, every 6 weeks, because the infrastructure team will only go that fast. Because their stuff is the most critical, right? It has to be rock solid. Okay, so who suffers? Our customers suffer. Because, well, if I have a feature to deliver tonight, I can't do it. I got to wait for these, 50 other teams to get ready before I can deliver. That sucks. So what microservices do is they say, well, each of these subcomponents of an application, we're going to write them individually, and we're going to agree on the interface by which they talk to each other. And we're going to sort of have this loose coupling between these microservices, right? Micro, part of the bigger service. So the UI team or whatever, right? They kind of do what they do. They run at their own pace, so long as the interface doesn't change. And maybe there's another team which is writing some other layer, right? So I'll give another example in our platform. So in our platform, we have this documentation microservice built in that it's so well designed. I can change it if I find a bug in our content. I can change it. I can roll out. I can make a change. I can say, okay, here's a pull request. Somebody's going to approve it. Boom, it just goes to production. Entirely different microservices. So this loose coupling, what is it doing for our customers? It's allowing us to move faster, which means we can deliver value to our customers faster. That's it. That's the goal. It fundamentally allows companies to move so much faster than they used to before, because a priori, because 7, 8, 9 different teams have to come together in perfect cohesion, right? It has to be perfectly timed so that you could launch things. And then you would have waterfall releases, which means, okay, I'm going to take 3 months and write code, and then I'm going to run 2 months of QA testing because I don't have enough QA people. Okay, so now that's 5 months, but then I need to roll back. Okay, but now we're doing 1 or 2 releases a year for the entire platform. Who suffers? Our customers suffer. We can't deliver faster. Microservices solve that problem. Now microservices beget containers because containers are small packages and they work independently. Containers beget Kubernetes because I need a way to orchestrate all these things together. And that's what the ecosystem looks like. That's why microservices, containers, and Kubernetes are critical. End of the day, everything goes back to one single thing. People want to move faster in delivering new value to their customers. If that's not true, nobody cares.
I understand that making things work in perfect concert is not easy, but can you break that down a little bit more? Like, what is so complicated about deploying these apps on Kubernetes? What makes it complicated?
So, at least twice a day, I get the same question from prospects. So Kubernetes exists, man. I mean, I could run this. I have this working on my laptop, or I can spin this up in Amazon. What do you do? Okay. So, all right. So let's talk through that. All right. So there's Kubernetes, which is the engine, and then there's management of the engine, and that's where the pain is. So usually, and I show the slide where we're talking over a podcast, but usually I show one slide to our customers, which has nothing to do with our company. It's just a bunch of technologies. So I tell them, okay, all right, so you got a cluster up and running. You think you're gonna have one of them or more than one? Everybody says, okay, I'm gonna have more than one. Okay. How do you know they all look the same? Oh, okay, all right, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna have this policy, and we're gonna do, set up this Git model, and okay, all right, so somebody's gonna do that work. All right, so now you have a cluster up. You want to upgrade them. How are you gonna do that? Well, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, okay, all right, so that's a workflow that you're gonna run. Okay, all right, good, you got that solved now. All right, so how do you know your developers have access to only the developer clusters and not to the production cluster? Okay, that's done. How do you do auditing across all these? Okay, okay, so now clusters are up, auditing is done. Okay, so monitoring, logging, is that done? Okay, that's another thing. Well, now your applications are showing up. So how do you deploy applications again? Oh, yeah, we're going to use Helm charts. Okay, all right. So then they're going to sit in a Git repo. Where are they going to sit? Yeah, we would like for it to. So what's your GitOps plan? Yeah, we're going to have to do this and we're going to do this. We're probably going to buy a product. Okay, well, that's another thing you're going to do. There's like 10, 12 different things that need to happen as a baseline. And I don't want to spend the next 10 minutes talking about this slide, but this is the problem, right? So it's just because you got a cluster up or maybe two clusters up, it doesn't mean anything. You got to make this run in production. There's a handful of things that need to be done. And of course, you can do them, right? I mean, our customers are pretty sharp individuals, right? I mean, mostly our customers are very sophisticated individuals, developers for the most part. But the really sharp ones, what they do also understand is that, hey, so the problem that I could solve this myself. I could build all this stuff. I can have two, three, four of my colleagues have worked with me, and 6 months from now, a year from now, I can build all this stuff. But then here's the thing: you got to maintain it forever. Okay, so you own a product now, and here's the most interesting thing. I think this is the death knell to building things in house. The problem you're going to solve, automation layer on top of Kubernetes, is the same problem your competitor is solving. It's the same problem that the company around down the street is solving. It's the same problem that everybody else is solving. What is the upside of you solving it if this is effectively a commodity? And to be clear, commodity doesn't mean free. Commodity doesn't mean easy. Commodity just means everybody's got the same stuff, right? My platform is the same as your platform. What's the upside? Just buy it. The ROI is always like, net positive if you buy something like this. In fact, usually the conversation is, okay, Mr. Customer, well, are you going to take, I don't know, let's call it a year, I don't know, 2 people. Just be very good. I mean, 5, 7, 10 people is usually the number, but nobody knows that they want, right? They all kind of feel like I can do this with like a couple of guys. Okay, fine. 2 people, 1 year. What does that cost you in the beer? Yeah. Our product is, and the question is, are you going to pay that much ongoing for a platform like ours? In fact, the smart money says, even if you have to pay us more money, you should pay it because you're going to be up and running today versus in a year. But that's what we're selling. We're selling, so Kubernetes exists, right? Like, for example, in Amazon, something called EKS, which is their Kubernetes service. It's brilliant. It's very well thought through. Google's GKE, GCP's GKE Kubernetes, incredibly brilliant. Just amazing work. Okay, but that's Kubernetes. How are you going to manage it? That's where the pain is. So our business, we're in the Kubernetes market, but we're selling a Kubernetes management platform.
I imagine like the opportunity cost there is huge when you're kind of comparing like building something like this in-house versus using a platform like yours.
What I find fascinating about our space is that, and this is what I really enjoy about my job as a sales guy. Like, our customers are so sharp, right? I mean, they know. I mean, it's just a pleasure to be selling into this space. I think once they just need information, right? So our job as salespeople or as or sales engineers is really give as much information as possible to our customers so that they can make the right decision for their businesses. That's it, right? That's what it boils down to, and that's what we do. So we show them the product, we give them access. It's a SaaS product, right? You can do whatever they want. They play with it, they ask questions. We are always here to support them from an enterprise support perspective. And when they are ready to go, look, either they're going to decide I want to buy this now or I'm going to buy this later or not. And that's okay. It's completely their decision. But, for the most part, many, many large organizations, and there's enough logos on our website now, have decided that, look, it's not in the interest of my business to go build this myself. I should buy this and just move faster, because it all goes back to the same thing. I need to move faster. My apps are coming out faster, but then my infrastructure is not as malleable as it should be. That's a problem. How do I make my infrastructure go faster? Companies like Graphic can help.
Is there any particular like segment or industry that's poised to demonstrate a significant growth when it comes to using Kubernetes?
So although the application seems to be pretty horizontal, I mean, we have like a SaaS security company on the platform, we have a bunch of FinServe companies on the platform, we have healthcare companies on the platform. It seems pretty broad, but I would call out that there seems to be a whole lot of interest from financial services companies, which is fascinating to me. Over the last year, something has clearly changed in that industry. So we certainly do go after, kind of, make sure we get in front of as many kind of financial services companies as we can, because they seem to be, focused on modernizing their traditional infrastructure, and that's a great opportunity. So yeah, so there seems to be a whole lot of activity in the financial service space, but at the same time, we're seeing a whole lot of activity in the healthcare vertical also. Even though products sometimes are horizontal, we have to focus, as from a sales perspective, we have to pick a vertical. So right now, our sales team definitely focuses on financial services and healthcare more.
Yeah, and they tend to be on kind of the cutting edge with technology. Next, like what are upcoming trends that you might be seeing for this market?
My perspective is that container orchestration is not a new problem. There are companies who existed, or teams who existed, who've been sort of working on this for, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years now, in various shapes or forms. This is, many of the kind of the OGs in the space, they started before even Kubernetes was a thing. And then once Kubernetes became a thing, they adopted it. In any industry, when the industry is new, the initial vendors, their job is to tell the world, this is a problem, right? Believe me, Mr. Customer, you need this, right? That's number one. And usually they're just trying to figure out, how do I get this up and running? So we're past that now. So at this point, kind of building a Kubernetes cluster is one example. It's sort of hard, but it's just, enough people have done it. It's just not that big of a deal. You can go to a public cloud, you can consume this as a service. And now that companies are modernizing, applications are going to production in an enterprise environment. There are these enterprise grade requirements that are showing up. And I alluded to some of them when I was talking about, what do I tell a customer? Have you thought about ABC, right? So, logging and monitoring, governance, and, strong role-based access control, get repeatability around, infrastructure creation. Can I do simple backup and restore of my production clusters? This is where the market seems to be going. How do I truly move my, traditional money making applications that today run in production in a maybe monolith into this new modern infrastructure? And now the infrastructure must comply with the enterprise requirements that, if you're doing this like as a toy in a corner, you don't need to worry about. Right now, security will get involved. Right now, compliance will get involved in a company. Have you thought about those things? So we're investing as much time as possible in helping our customers, do better governance of their applications, better control of their applications, etc. And I think that's where the market is going. Orchestration is gonna, look, this market is growing up, right? We're becoming, we're putting on big boy plans. We're going after enterprise deals, and enterprises will expect us to meet certain bars. And whoever understands and addresses those requirements elegantly faster, it's going to win this market. There's going to be, I don't know, a handful, 2, 3 winners in this space. I don't believe, in my opinion, this is not a winner take all market, but in the Kubernetes management space, it's going to be 2 or 3 vendors who are going to win. We're going to be big companies here. There are no big companies right now in this space. It's an early market, but given what we built so far, we are on the right track. We just have to keep executing.
Yeah, so you mentioned you're kind of going after those big enterprise clients, and that makes sense. What do you think the opportunities are for new market entrants? People that are getting set up in this, or that are kind of new to this space.
This is what all of us here at Rafi truly believe. There is a set of activities is the wrong word. There's work that a DevOps team does as it relates to automation for modern infrastructure across clouds, or or whatever situation happens to be. And the right platform here is going to understand that roadmap, and one by one by one, take each of those workflows that today people do in their companies and productize them. So we started with a simple platform that is kind of, bring up Kubernetes. Then we added RBAC. Then we added application management. Then we added GitOps pipelines. Then we added Terraform support. Then we added backup and restore. Boom, 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 boom. Right. Then we added secrets management. On and on and on. We have a 5-year plan. We're not going to build it anytime soon, because we would like to be that one-stop shop for our DevOps customers as they take their companies to the modern era, right? We want to be that company, right? Right now, as I see it, nobody in the market seems to have grokked that. And maybe they do, but they haven't actually launched anything that truly steps back and thinks about what is it that happens in the day of a life of a DevOps engineer, or a year in a DevOps engineer's life. Let's go automate everything so that they can focus on value for the company and they don't need to spend time on this silly stuff, right? Like day to day, something breaks, something this happens. No, they should be focusing on more important things for the company, where the company will make more money. Kubernetes management isn't it. They should just rely on people like us. We're going to solve that problem for them. We're going to be their partner. We got this for you. And I tell my customers this all the time. When you sign up for an account with Rafe, it's like you hired a guy named Rafe. Comes with 50 people behind him, but you hired a guy named Rafe, right? So you used to do this job. We got it for you now. You go focus on more important things. But that's a 5-year plan. We have a lot of work to do. Already we have a great product. We are far ahead of any of our competitors in this space, but we have so much more work to do.
Let's hear more about you and your company. So what's the story behind starting your company?
So I mentioned earlier in this call that we sort of had this pain in our previous startup, and we ended up here. So before this, I used to work at a large company called Akamai. Akamai is a CDN, very well-run company. I really enjoyed my time there. We ended up at Akamai through an acquisition. So the previous startup I was was acquired by Akamai, and I spent some time there afterwards. Many of my colleagues are still there. And the product we built, which was a software-defined perimeter product, it's flourishing at Akamai. Very happy to see that. That was a security company, and infrastructure was sort of like or DevOps in particular. I think that was sort of like an afterthought because we were security guys, and we didn't spend as much time as we should on thinking about DevOps. And we all used to think this is easy, right? Just write a bunch of scripts. How hard is this? It's pretty hard. It's really painful. And that was a pretty interesting experience, right? Because all of us kind of felt the pain. Lots of 3 a.m, something fell apart, and people are being woken up, and all kinds of bad things happened. And that was the impetus for us to think about this problem in the first place. So our prior experience led us here. In fact, in the previous company, before that company, I'd spent some time working on some proxy stuff like load balancing and things like that. And that experience had led to the previous company. So far, some pain that one experiences leads one to think about, okay, well, somebody should address that pain, and that has become a company. I guess at some point in the future, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years down the line, maybe we'll have a cathartic moment when we think about the some pain that we experienced at Rafe that's going to help us think about, well, maybe we should go solve that next. I don't know. We'll see. But that's been happening. Right. So yeah, we think about what we've worked on in the past and what worked, what didn't work. And that's kind of allowed us as a group. I keep saying us and we because it's not just me. My co-founder who I've been working with for many years now, many of our key architects who were, junior guys many years ago, right behind the ears, but now they're super senior guys, right? They've been with us for many years. So we do this together. This is a team effort, and hopefully it continues to be that way.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to the team just in a second. But first, I mentioned earlier, I wanted to talk about the timing. You think, now is the right time for this company. What's changed in technology or platforms or customer behavior that is sort of leading to this now being the right time?
Timing is, how do you get timing right? I don't know, right? Maybe it's all in hindsight, right? I don't know. You start and then you kind of see. I think you have assumptions, and sometimes you are too early, sometimes you're too late, sometimes you're just right. In our previous company, in hindsight now, we were a couple of years ahead of the market. How do you know? You don't know, right? It's just kind of you start and then kind of see how things play out. In this case, 2 years ago, arguably, I was worried that maybe we were too late because that's what wow, this company exists and this company exists and this company exists. And as we talked to customers, it was clear to us that those traditional products were designed for a very different kind of audience, a very sophisticated audience. They design a product for like Google or Netflix, and that's fine. It's very good, right? But in a typical enterprise, anybody in infrastructure, right? This is not what they do all day long, right? They have 20, 30, 40 other things to do also. So for them to kind of stop everything and now become a Kubernetes expert, not just one person, but 10 people, it's not going to happen, right? They're too busy, right? So they need things that can help them move faster without having to become experts at this new thing. Because tomorrow, what if Kubernetes goes away? Maybe it'll be something else. So that was the insight. Okay, all right, we need better or maybe simpler turnkey workflows to help my customers, kind of move faster. And think of this as, 7, 8, 9 different things they do on a daily basis. Each one of them, make it a product effectively on a platform. That was the insight. That's what we built. But what is timing here? Look, timing is, in the last 2 years, I don't know, I've been kicked out of, I don't even know, 300 enterprises. We were selling our product before we had a product, right? But the best thing you can do for your company is go talk to people. Oh my God, the number of companies we've talked to over the last 3 years. But what's interesting is even 2 years ago, and I'll give you the best example. So on the last day of the last quarter ending 4/30, we closed a deal with a very high tech company in the Bay Area, whose CIO I had met, I don't know, like a year and a half ago. And I told him this starry-eyed idea about what we were going to build and how it's going to magically make things easy. You know what this guy said to me? He said, "Sounds awesome. We don't need it. We already solved this problem. Thank you for your time." No, they didn't. Right? I mean, over time, as we made progress, as they made progress, we kept in touch. And at some point, they said, "Wow, this is awesome. We have this one specific problem that your product clearly addresses. Let's talk." And they bought a product. They work with us. So did I time it right? Or did I just stay on the customer? It's just diligence. We just stayed with them, right? We called them, stayed in touch, and eventually they said, "All right, okay, all right. There's enough now for us to buy." So I think that's what we've gotten pretty good at in this company. Obviously, we have to be lucky, right? Luck. I'll take luck any day of over skill, but we've been very, very lucky, right? But at the same time, I think we built a rigor in the system where we're just out there, right? We're not afraid of the no's. Enough people have said no's, but then they all come back. Not all, but many of them come back. Yeah, okay, just stay with it, right? I think that's the distinction. I mean, every entrepreneur understands and appreciates that you will hear no's, and it is what it is. It's okay, right? Keep going. It's okay. Enough people say no, but there's no no in my mind. There's never no nothing. There's no no. Everything is maybe later. I never hear no's. My ears don't hear no's. Everything is maybe later. Okay, I'll come back and politely ask again later. I'll call you next week. And sometimes people say things like, "Okay, you know what? We don't need this right now. Call me in 6 months." No, man, I'll call you in 2 weeks, just to be sure. What if something changes, right? Or email. I don't mean call every time, but we have to be open and reachable and make sure our customers are aware of what's happening and they have all the information they need. Because I think in this new market, and this is in fact something that I've realized that I don't think I ever thought about before, or like something to think about. When the customer is, particularly when the customer is this sophisticated as an engineer as they are in our case, we don't convince them to buy anything. They take the information we give them and they come to the conclusion, they reach the point of clarity that yes, this is going to make my situation better. There's no forcing anybody to buy anything. There's no nothing. No, it doesn't work that way. It's just you show them enough and they go, "Okay, I see how this can help my situation and my company's situation. Let's talk." That's what needs to happen. So then you have to be in a position where you keep providing information. Because the purpose of this is not to sell. The purpose of this is to get them to a point of clarity that your product is the right product for their situation. That's it. Just that frame of mind is what's allowing us to keep moving at the pace we're moving.
I love that approach. It makes a lot of sense. And I mean, it sounds like it's working. But next, let's talk about the team. We said we would talk about the team next. So who are the people that you've sort of put together here that make up Rafe?
Many of the team members are folks who worked with us in the past. My co-founder, he's our head of engineering operations. So we've been kind of working on various things for some time now together. But then no company is gonna make fast progress if you don't have some level of new blood, right, as it were. Right, you have to have new ideas come into the system. So like our head of products, so his last job he was the VP product management at a company called Okta. It's a very, very successful single sign-on company. He ran a big team there, and he showed up here, and he's like the one guy in product management. He's writing PRDs and he's writing our documentation, and incredibly hands-on. He's the SE, right? But he brings with him this incredible perspective about SaaS and how people buy. And I think without him having joined, I don't think we'd be where we are now. We wouldn't have made the progress we made. No way, not a chance. Because he, in addition to obviously building a great product, what he also figured out is that traditional systems engineers or sales engineers, I don't think they can do this job. We need a very different kind of technical person in a sales call. We need engineers. So so he thought about what kind of person you would need, and between him and the rest of the team, they figured out that. And here's something creative: the best solution architects, they've been QA engineers before. QA engineers are not afraid of anything; they'll break anything, and even if it breaks, it's fine, no problem. They'll figure it out, right? So they have no fear. Okay, so we look for that now, right? So we've had people join, like our head of products is Mohan. He joined from a very different background. Our head of marketing, he's been at like companies like Clearwell and Proofpoint. So he's a very interesting background. One guy doing so much work, and he's what a great job he's done in presenting the company, telling the story. I mean, just our website's a pretty. He's done a great job. I think we found a bunch of really driven individuals who are all very senior, but they all are hands on. And they know full well that a year from now, they won't be hands on because we'll have teams around them because, this will be a bigger company, and they will easily be able to do that job also because they've done it before. So finding that perfect fit of a senior person, and not this applies not just to marketing products, also to our engineering organization, hands-on people who have experience managing large organizations in the past, who are doing everything now on their own, and then slowly one by one, we're kind of building teams around them, right? And so that the company scales and they scale also. Finding that kind of person is so hard. And I can definitely hear we got lucky. We found a great team at every level. Like our sales guys are just what a great job they're doing. Product management, marketing, and of course engineering. Right? Just a lot of things have to be right for you to win. A lot of things have to work, just work, right? And that seems to be true for our company.
Next, let's look under the hood of your product. Could you describe the essence of your SaaS offering?
So at a very, very high level, it does three things for our customers. There's lots of features. Three things at the top. It helps them manage the lifecycle of the infrastructure, Kubernetes, stuff that it runs on top of, etc. Second, it helps with the lifecycle of the application. Okay, so developers writing code, the code needs to get kind of somehow shipped into a cluster, and then turn it on, and the developers get access, etc. Do that. And the third thing is it helps the sort of the central IT organization govern these environments, right? So ensure that the environments are reasonably safe. There's auditing built in, right? Just kind of enterprise grade requirements that every enterprise will have for their modern application infrastructure. So cluster lifecycle management, application lifecycle management, governance. That's what our platform is built on top of, and we keep adding capabilities to address each of these three buckets.
When did you start the company?
We started writing code January of 2018 is when we started writing code.
Okay, so a little older than 3 years. You've been around. So what are some of the key milestones? I'm going to ask you to kind of look back along the journey. And what are some of the key milestones you've achieved in those last 3 years? And where do you stand today?
I think the ones that matter the most, right, are we have something to sell, and then somebody actually decided to buy. What else matters in a company like us? And so we have been selling something that will actually kind of that works, like truly works, for 5 quarters, 4 to 5 quarters. First couple of quarters, we had a product. We were also learning, right, how to explain what it is, and what are the words that make sense, etc. And we did that, I would argue, for the first 3 quarters, and the last 2 quarters we've been selling as like a truly professional sales organization. We seem to be growing pretty fast, given that the sales team is still pretty small. We're growing very, very fast. We hit our, first bookings wise $1 million number in our first quarter in business. When we had nothing going on from an infrastructure perspective on the sales side. No, just market is really hot, right? So it's been great. And along the way, we raised money. We raised a seed round a long time ago. We raised a round in May of 2019, which has actually been 2 years now. But look, the only metrics that I track fundamentally are the size of the organization and the customer count. These are the things that are important to me. They seem to be important to the team, because every time we close a deal, that's a big deal for our team. We talk about it. We So as an aside, every second Wednesday, we have a lot of course meetings and a lot of these all hands and whatnot. But every second Wednesday, we do kind of an open mic session. Anybody can ask anything. We just talk. No agenda, just talk. They open up a Zoom, and people from all over the world join, and we just talk. And you know what they all want to talk about? That one POC we did last week. What happened? Nobody's got questions about funding, maybe here and there. Mostly they want to understand, okay, so what do customers think about the stuff we built? Do they like it? Is it something missing? Can we make it better? That customer's not happy. Why not? That's what they care about. And that customer focused mentality seems to be really helping. And that's why I kind of say, look, I mean, the things that are important to us are people buying? And right now, the answer is yeah, man. It's a great product. People are buying.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, that sounds like an awesome kind of ritual that you guys have, and a focused team to do something like that. I'm not sure at how many companies a meeting with no agenda, how well that would fly over. But if it works, it works. What are some of the biggest challenges that you still need to address as a company?
Yeah, look, this is a noisy market. We are a new company in a noisy space, so there's a lot of work to be done towards making sure that the world is aware of a solution like this, right? You can put the, you can paint the perfect painting, but if it's parked in your shed, right, nobody's ever going to see it. So there's a lot of work to be done in getting the word out, making sure the world is aware. And of course, these things take time, it takes money. But the good news is, our partners, like Amazon being a great partner to us, AWS specifically, we're in their marketplace, and their sales teams are putting us in front of customers. So a lot of these things are working gently, slowly. But if there's one thing that I spend a lot of time thinking about is, there are the deals we get into, we win. But the deals that we don't get into, we lose. We're not there. So how do we fix that? Right. So there are deals that are happening where we're not aware the deal is happening, and the customer probably is not aware that that there's a solution called Rafi out there, and that's okay, right? We're an early company. It just takes time, but that's something that we are presently obsessing over as to how to fix that problem or solve that problem, right? How do we scale? How do we tune SEO, etc. So that's where that's a problem that we have to solve, and we are presently addressing it, like in a very material way. I'll give you an example. If you type Kubernetes in Amazon, right? I don't know, 6-9 months ago, I don't even know if we showed up in the first 10 pages of Google. Now we're pretty high up there, not on the first page yet, but we got to work on that. But this is kind of right now, product solid, right? I mean, we seem to have a clear story. The messaging seems to work quite well. Now we need to get it in front of more and more enterprises so we can help them.
How are you reaching your customers today? What's your go-to-market strategy?
We work with a number of partners, Amazon being certainly one of them, and we have a number of others. We do a lot of calling. Yeah, but a lot of people say, calling doesn't work anymore. No, it works just fine. You just have to do it. You have to do it more. So we do a lot of that. And, we found, in fact, with the most creative thing we found that seems to work is, we do a bunch of these kind of webinar is the wrong word, but just these sessions where anybody can show up and learn about some new technology or some new problem or how to do GitOps better in Amazon, etc. So these just kind of education sessions that the team has been orchestrating every few weeks, 2 weeks or so. We have these sessions, right? So that's giving us a lot of visibility in the market, and that seems to have grown our inbound like significantly. So this goes back to the conversation about this market being filled with buyers who are pretty sophisticated. They understand the space, and they're looking for information. So we're doing a reasonably good job getting them the information they're looking for, and that's helping us with credibility. And then they're reaching out. The inbound has been pretty powerful.
So you mentioned, the partnership with AWS. That's pretty major. Can you talk about, what that's done for you, and if you've managed to score any other partnerships worth mentioning? Can you talk about maybe the strategy behind that?
So we have another one that's public, which is with Verizon. So Verizon launched towards the end of the year. They announced a platform called Application Edge, which is a managed Kubernetes offering for Edge and multi-cloud, which has been developed in partnership with Rafi. So that's a pretty big one for us. Verizon's been a great partner. They're slowly, steadily putting us in front of a bunch of customers. So there's a number of other such partnerships that we have in place that are that are not public yet. But suffice it to say, certainly these partnerships are a great way for kind of revenue acceleration, because we bring a sound platform, a great platform to the market, but the channels that the likes of Verizon can bring to bear, with the right platform, right, they make money, we make money, and of course the customers are happy. So we're doing a bunch of those for sure.
And how do you make money?
We sell, it's a consumption based model. So we charge per cluster under management, and then we charge for support. Very simple.
Yeah, that was quick. Usually people take a long time to answer the question, but simple's good. We're kind of getting towards the end here, so this might be the last question. And as we close, kind of looking back on this whole journey, do you have any advice maybe for young entrepreneurs who are just getting started? Maybe not in your space, but just any kind of startup entrepreneur.
This is all really hard. It's it's really hard, right? No, it's just this. My God, not the question, by the way. I'm talking about just the life, right? I'm saying this is my advice. This is really hard. Are you sure you want to do this? In fact, I'll tell you something. So anybody who at least I interview, who is joining our team, I this has kind of become my shtick, man. I say this to everybody, so pardon me, but I tell them, hey man, look, I mean, you're going to work here. You're going to work longer hours than you did in your previous job. Your spouse is going to be pretty unhappy with you, spouse, whatever, girlfriend, boyfriend. But I'm telling you, man, you're going to work really hard. And I don't know, man, you're probably going to make less money. And it's a startup, right? So I don't know if it's going to be successful. I hope it is successful, but what if it isn't? I don't know. Why do you want this job again? Why do you want to do this? Right? And what I'm looking for is not things like, well, my buddies are working in startups and making money, or that guy went to this other company and they had a successful exit. Okay, man, you're going to be very disappointed in this job. Don't do it, because 9 times out of 10 it doesn't work, right? So the motivation has to be something along the lines of, look, I've thought about it, and a startup's going to help me accelerate my career, or this is a problem space that I really want to be in, and I can learn something, right? And look, it's okay for the answer to be a little bit selfish, right? That, look, I really want to learn. I'm going to take 2 years and I'm going to learn everything there's to learn about Kubernetes, at least in our case. And then, you know what? I may leave, Haseeb. And then look, okay, fine. It's okay, right? I mean, people leave. It is what, I mean, we hope you don't, but it's okay, right? Because in the process, you're going to learn a lot, but we're also going to get a lot of value, right? Of course, we're paying money, but fundamentally, you are helping us be successful as an engineer or whatever job is going to be. So think about that. This is a really, really hard job. And it's even harder for the entrepreneurs to start it, because whatever idea you have, nine times out of 10 people are going to tell you this is a silly idea. I had a VC tell me like a couple of years ago. He said, "Hey man, look, I talked to a lot of developers, and I'm not really sure about this company, because all the developers I talk to are telling me that containers at the edge is just not a thing. So I'm not sure about your business, man." And I was just like shell shocked, right? What is this guy talking about? But man, all kinds of people say all kinds of things, right? It's okay, right? Water off a duck's back. It's okay. Move on, right? The thickness of your skin, that is needed to do this, the energy that you need to do this, it's taxing. And particularly if your family, look, I have a wife, I have 2 kids, and make sure your spouse is completely okay with that. Be absolutely sure that your spouse understands what you're signing up for, because it's not you, it's your family signing up for this. And I've been very lucky. My wife is very, very supportive. I deserve all the time she gets mad at me, because I do crazy things. I don't spend as much time as I should on things. But no, these are things that are important. Look, it's a hard job. Those magical outcomes may or may not happen. Work life is tough, which means your family life is going to be tough. Just think through this stuff. So then why would you do this at all? Man, you better believe in whatever you're working on. You better truly believe. Don't say, well, I'm building like Uber Eats for X. So because Uber Eats was successful, I'm going to say, no. It has, you have to truly believe. And if you don't believe, because it's going to be so hard along the way, enough people will say to you, you're an idiot. Why are you doing this? This is a crazy idea, whatever. You have to believe. If you don't believe, don't do it.
All right, Haseeb, thank you. Before we get out of here, what's the best way for our listeners to maybe reach you and learn more about Rafe?
So the website is rafe.co, not com, co. Lots and lots of content on the website. The documentation is awesome. Even if you don't end up using our product, our documentation is going to help you if you're going to be in the orbit of Kubernetes. And we maintain a pretty healthy Twitter handle. It's Rafe Systems Inc., Inc., where we talk a whole lot about just the problem set, the market, etc., that you're going to find useful. And my handle on Twitter is Haseeb Budhani, so first name, last name, one word. Look forward to interacting with folks as they make progress in their modernization journey.
Well, we're going to end the podcast there. If you liked our show, please subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts and send us your feedback to info@angelnears.com. Haseeb, thank you for joining the show. We appreciate your time and you sharing your story with our listeners.
Oleg, really enjoyed it, my friend. Look forward to doing this again soon.